All right, so here we are. Is it July 23rd?
Yes.
I think it's July 23rd, 2023. 23.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've had multiple grandchildren and my children ask about gardening. So I thought we might get a few gardening tips from Mimi and Pop because their garden looks so good right now. So I'll turn the time over to you and we'll look at some of your stuff.
Well, we only have a small garden. The important thing was when we started, this was river bottom. And I spent a lot of time digging all the rocks out.
Oh, yeah. Where'd you get your dirt?
Buckets of rocks. And then I went out to Uncle Tad's place.
In Melba.
Place, and I got 2 different loads of soil. I brought 2 big loads in. So the load from this side has a little more adobe in it, and so it isn't quite a little more clay.
Hmm.
And the other one down here is much more sand and things like that. They have there because I mean, the adobe, the farmers have that. They can make a lot longer row. The water will go further.
Oh.
Whereas over here it seeks into the ground. So if I take this here and it gets a little hard, it's really hard to work with because it's adobe and that. So these are the raspberries, and they're just about ready to. The bees are all over the maker now, and that's a year-round thing.
Here's the raspberries.
So they can grow once they love to grow in something like that, and they'll produce a lot. When they're through, after it freezes completely really hard, I'll cut those off in about 2 inches of the ground.
So you cut everything down 2 inches high.
Completely down, and then I'll
in the fall.
I'll put a little fall in the fertilizer, and you see numbers in their fertilizer. There's a high number uses the nitrogen. There'd be like a 20, 16, 12 or something like that. And for you want something that the high number always gives a lot of high estrogen
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen.
But it might burn it if it's too high,
In the
right?
fall time, you don't want that. You want something that's got a pretty good second number on it. The first number, a 12-12 or a 16-16. And that's something that slow over the year and prepares for the spring.
So raspberries like a 12-12 would be good.
The raspberries just come up on their own. I don't have to go mature them. I do make a little row as soon as they start to come up, and I water them with a soaker because then it doesn't run water all over. And I just put a little bit on very slowly, about every 5 or 6 days. And if I can see they need it, and because you can't see the soaker in here now.
And once they get up, what's your watering pattern when they're bigger?
About once a week, something like that.
You do the soaker once a week?
Hook up the soakers all hooked up. I put it in. It goes for maybe 3-4 hours.
Once a week, okay.
Something like once a week. Right next to it, I built a little racket here on the fence, and that's for cucumbers. They're just starting to grow. They'll grow up on the.
These little cucumbers right here.
They'll grow up on the fence.
Grow up on
so
that.
The cucumbers are out of the ground. And
Oh wow!
They need something to climb on.
They like to
In a
climb.
little open space, I throw a few onion seeds down. That's good. And now you got this one here is the seed I'll be keeping. This is going to seed.
Is that one from last year?
Yeah.
And I'll collect that in the fall because the seeds are right on the top. And I'll let them dry and I just shake them good. And they'll shake right out, and then I have all my onion seeds.
And they have your own onion seeds.
Yeah, so he just sprinkles it on the ground. Doesn't have to plant it, he just sprinkles it.
Don't even cover them?
No.
Really?
Just go straight right to they want us to go shallow.
Wow.
Now you come to the ground here that I could take my hoe, because this came from Con's farm. I could go in there anytime I want. And it's so soft and easy to work with. So that's what you put your zucchini in. We've got zucchini, and here's peppers. We're growing peppers.
Here's zucchini. There's one little one in here. It's starting.
And then
There's the peppers.
there's the pepper kinds. You see the little white, a lot of these are coming up.
Couple of peppers.
We just
little
picked how many
buds
peppers we get off these
I
4
already
plants.
picked 8 peppers,
Oh,
so
wow.
I don't have as many right now, but there's one right here.
Well, there's a little, and there's a little one down at the bottom, a little green one.
Okay, yeah.
Little pepper.
And there's an old trick in here. Once they grow like this, if you take a little thing of Epsom salts, like about a tablespoon of Epsom salt, mix it with water, they'll bloom a lot faster and quicker.
Oh wow.
So once Terry harvested them, and we had stuffed peppers, I came down and I've sprayed it, and they'll have a whole bunch of peppers here.
Start blooming again. A little bit of Epsom salt and water.
Just an ounce, a tablespoon of Epsom salt and water. And these are her green beans.
Ah, here's the green bean row.
She has to pick
Oh.
those. No, there's a bush bean, and
There's one right there.
and then there's a bean that grows up a pole bean. The pole beans almost all have a lot of what were they?
they have strings in them that are really good.
Oh, big long strings. Yeah.
These are more work, but this the bush bean. The bush bean is by far the
Bush
best.
beans, tender and tastier.
Eat it, you can give them neighbors, you can freeze them, whatever, and then that's good. And then of course,
Here's the
now-
famous
now
tomato
you have
rack.
to water dependent, and then here's tomatoes. You got to build up something. Now they make fancy racks you pay a lot of money for. These are just out of pieces of wood, and I've got to take a piece of field fence I've made a circle out of. 3 of them. They grow up in it, and just supports them. Now these are growing me out of house and home this year.
Yeah, they're happy.
And,
Lots of green ones, and there's a big red one here on the back. What kind is this? Is this a beefsteak?
this is a big boy,
A big boy.
and
Beefsteak's really good though.
that's
Yeah.
a better boy. That's that one in the beef steak. There's different kinds. They germinate faster. But we water these up like anything extra. I plant them in their little tiny small plants about the time of Mother's Day. Well, it doesn't do any good to put it earlier because they just don't grow very fast. That soil's got to be warm. And then once they come up to where they're getting a size, then I make sure there's a frame around them. And I lift them up so that the tomatoes are up off the ground.
So everything you planted here, you could pretty much, if you plant right around Mother's Day, you'll be okay usually.
Yeah.
Like the weekend before, the
and
weekend
we do
of.
this with little plants, but the rest of this is just done with seeds.
Okay, so tomatoes are plants, and the rest are
Once
seeds.
the tomatoes get like this, that's the one thing you don't want to water too much, because if you water too much, you'll get a lot of vine and a lot of little flowers, and you won't get many tomatoes. So about every 5 to 7 days in really hot weather, and I have a little ditch around it. I fill that ditch just with water, and I'll leave a little trickle run that, and that thing will sit there like that for maybe 3-4 hours. So I'll get a real deep soaking.
Wow. So your little
Once
moat
every-
fills, your ditch fills, and leave it for 3 or 4 hours, about every 5
Kind
days.
of full for about 4 hours, so 5 hours, and that'll do that. Then next to that, she's got her yellow squash, and,
Yellow squash.
and
Got some coming there, Mom? Oh, look at those little yellow
Look at that
squash.
little baby in there.
They're cute.
Yeah. And we like to fry the yellow squash with the little zucchinis that are about as big around and an onion, and use it for a vegetable. It's really good.
That'd be really good
With garlic salt.
when they're
and-
fresh.
Yeah, and garlic powder.
So let's see. So a little bit of garlic salt powder,
Yeah, and then just the onions.
a little
and
bit
the
of
two kinds
onion,
squash.
butter, and then the small zucchini and the little yellow squash that has the hook in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Epsom salts. I put a little Epsom salts around the base of each tomato plant too, about a couple tablespoons. But you
Just
gotta be
dry,
careful.
or do you mix it
Just the dry crystals.
I just put the dry crystal
on the ground once they've grown up a little
This
bit?
ground is so soft it just goes right in.
Okay.
It's really nice.
What does that do?
It just changes the pH,
Okay.
and that's what you want for tomatoes.
So like a teaspoon around each one?
Tablespoon,
A
around
couple
each
tablespoons
plant.
around each plant of Epsom salts.
Yeah.
Help the pH.
When they're just up to the ground, and usually I'll take the first little flower off just so that the strength goes to the plant.
Mm.
And like in March or April, you could plant spinach or
Peas
radishes
or peas.
Lettuce, if you want to grow
Yeah,
lettuce.
lettuce. Could you do carrots?
Yes.
Yeah. Those things need a little longer to grow and they won't frost and die,
You
right?
want to have them this soft.
If you
type
get a
of
late-
soil,
a
not
late
the hard
frost.
kind with a lot of
The clay or the
clay.
adobe.
No, you want to have the softer soil. And you can make a mulch out of this. I put a lot of, I have a lot of, I clean any fish, I put it right back in the garden. And you also need to think about rotating. Now we got the classic example out here where we grew pumpkins in a place, wonderful big pumpkins, and since then we can't get any to grow. And we put them on the other side of the fence here, and they're growing like weeds because.
Oh yeah, the
sometimes
pumpkins.
Yeah.
You need to have
A rotation.
rotational pattern.
Because different plants pull out different minerals and things, right?
Different minerals. Now, I keep the tomatoes here because that's where I have the sun.
Really good sun.
The sun comes, I don't have my the sun until afternoon. And it comes in right here, and so I have to go out of my way to make the mulch right and make the right pH in that or for the tomatoes to grow.
And Mom, with your pumpkins?
Yeah, it's looking pretty happy right there.
Wow, look at that big one.
We're hoping it'll get up to be 20 or 25 pounds.
Wow.
But we'll let you know.
What variety is this, Mom?
I
Another little one
just
right there
know
starting, huh?
That one's gonna die.
Oh yeah, it
See
looks
down,
sad.
down there, there's
one down there.
that might make it. But if you really wanted to get like a 200-pound pumpkin, you'd have to take all the other pumpkins off of this And I don't want a 200-pound pumpkin.
Yeah.
She's got some
This
growing.
variety can supposedly make 200-pound pumpkins, and this one is yellow, and then like in a few weeks it starts turning orange, right,
Yeah,
Mom?
it's going to
Yeah.
turn orange. And then down here is, see right there, that little green one right there?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a smaller pumpkin.
Yeah, look at that.
And it'll come out green and then it'll turn orange.
Right there.
And see, there's another one right through there.
Yeah.
That's just
You had a
starting.
couple coming. Oh, there's a pretty big one right
yeah,
there.
Yeah, it's starting to grow.
There's another big one
Don't be afraid to try something with the seed. It's cheap.
right there.
We have a package of seed that'll last 4 or 5 years sometimes.
Yeah.
We just get a few and
Yeah. Over the years, it's fun to grow things. I've really enjoyed it.
we
So,
like to do it.
So try it. You'll like it.
Yeah, we will.
well, there you go for Mimi and Papa.
Okay.
So how many years of wisdom do you each have now? How old are you?
Oh, I'm 80.
You're 80. Pretty
I'm better
spry.
than
Dad, how old are you?
that. 84.
You're 85, aren't you?
Next about 10 days.
85. That's right.
Something like
August
15
9th.
days. Yeah.
Coming up.
Coming up. We're gonna
84
make it.
and 80. Almost 85. Well, thank you. That's great.
You're welcome.
Love you.
Glad to
Love
have
you
you.
too.
Bye.